Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody. I'm excited to have you here because it's been fun for me to teach these classes, and today was a fun one to put together, and I hope that you're excited about that too. We're going to talk about basic steps to closing the class. If there's anything that you need to know or get really good at, it would be this, because I think all of us can learn how to teach a class. We can all be good at teaching a class. We can learn that, but then closing the class is a little bit different than just teaching a class. You kind of needed to learn a few skills. So today we're going to learn skills that are going to be something anybody can do. Did you know that a lot of people can go to a class or a training on learning how to close? Like, did you know car salesmen do that, or people who are real estate school? They actually take classes to learn how to close. So today we're going to learn how to close, but you don't have to go do all that training. This is something that anybody can do. So excited? Let's get started. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about why is it important to close your class, and what does that even mean? So I think it might be important for us to actually talk about what does it mean if you don't close your class. That might be easier for you to understand. I have been to classes before where they taught a great class, they were awesome, and they gave a lot of information, they were engaging, they had a lot of passion, and then at the end of the class, this is what they did. They said, well, thank you all for coming to the class. It was nice to have you here. If you have any questions, then let me know, and I hope to see you again soon. Now, that's a nice ending and all, but it's not officially closing the class. What it is actually doing is it's not really telling them what they need to do next. So it's our responsibility in our classrooms to make sure that we're letting them know, here's the end of the class. Now, here's what you need to do next. And that's what they really want to know. They want to know, okay, I've learned about these oils. I want them. How do I use them? They're excited. What do I do next? And the majority of the time, we're not telling them what to do next. So closing your class really is just helping them and leading them to know, here's what you do next to be able to get oils. And I think a lot of time we don't want to say something at the end of the class because we feel like we're being pushy, or we feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to feel like I'm, trying to get them to buy something. No. We're helping them and we're leading them to make a good decision. So if we can change our thought process and our belief process about closing the class, we would do so much better. And we talk about that today. But first of all, I think you all would like to know there are 7 reasons why people leave your class without enrolling. You want to know what they are? Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. And after we talk about these 7 reasons, then we're going to go over them and how we can help you so that you don't go through those 7 issues, okay? Or do the best that you can. All right, so here we go. Reason number 1, people leave your class because of a lack of trust. Now, I want to clarify something here. It doesn't mean that if I taught a class and somebody left and they didn't order anything, it means that I did something wrong or they thought I was lying. That's not what that means. A lack of trust in this situation simply means that they came to the class and they saw your presentation, but they didn't feel a connection with you, and they didn't feel like, okay, that is somebody I want to maybe get to know better or work with or do business with. That's what that means. And it just means they didn't know you well enough. So I want you to think back to people that you go to regularly for business. Maybe a place that you get your hair cut. It might be a place, for me, it was a preschool place. I wanted to make sure that when I sent my child there to learn, that I could trust the people there that were going to take care of my children. So if I went and I met them the first time, even though they didn't do anything wrong, if I didn't feel like I knew them well enough, or that there was a sense of they had the same feelings that I did about my child and they would take care of them, I would not have placed my child in that preschool. And it simply all just comes down to a lack of trust. Now, most of us think people don't buy at our class because they don't have money. And that's because that's what people say. But that doesn't mean that's actually how they feel. That's just the number 1 thing that people say. So I want you to remember, reason number 1 has nothing to do with the money. It's a lack of trust. So we talk about this in detail a little bit later, but the one thing I want to make sure that you know, in order for people to feel like they trust you, you need to be a little bit vulnerable. In other words, you need to share your stories. You need to be able to have them see your heart and know who you are as a real person. And when you're teaching at the class, if you're just teaching information and not actually making it personal, it's going to be hard for people to actually trust you and want to work with you. Okay, so reason number 1 is lack of trust. Okay, so reason number 2, no sense of urgency. What this means generally is that when somebody's sitting at your class and they hear the presentation, wow, okay, lavender could be good for burns, or maybe I should get melaleuca for, but they don't feel like it's something they need to do right now. Like, that's nice and cool and everything, but I don't think I need that right now. As a matter of fact, I've had a lot of people tell me that. One of my sisters was one of them. She said, I think the oils are great, but we just don't get sick. And so what we can do in that situation is, number 1, it's always good to have a deadline. For instance, this month, when you spend 160 PV and you get those 3 fabulous oils, that creates a sense of urgency. So it's always good to have something where there's a deadline for it, so they feel like, oh, I need to get that now. Or for us to be able to share stories and help them to understand why you need to get these now, maybe to prepare or be proactive for something that might happen down the road. And the way that you do this isn't always going to be in your presentation. It's what you do afterwards, okay, at the end of the presentation. And again, we talk about that at the end. Okay, so reason number 3, what it takes to fix the problem or issue is more work than the actual problem. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Let's look at this little picture we have here. So the guy's sitting at a desk, not a desk, he's visiting the doctor, and he's sitting on the area where patients sit. I don't know what you call that. And he says, so how much longer do I have before I have to actually change into a healthy lifestyle? So basically what this means is there may be somebody sitting there at your class who may have an issue. Let's say they have hypothyroid, okay, and they're taking some thyroid medication for that. Well, taking a pill for their issue is a whole heck of a lot easier than actually exercising, eating right, maybe putting an oil on for this, or the whole regimen that it takes to actually fix the issue is a lot harder than just sitting at home and doing nothing and taking a pill, okay? So sometimes there's people at your class who might be doing that. They may have insurance that completely covers everything that they're doing right now. They don't have to pay anything else. They have like a fabulous insurance. And then actually getting oils means they'd have to spend money. So this is a thought process that we have to realize is out there, that people think, wow, I don't think I want to spend money because I'm already taken care of, or that's too hard. And so that's reason number 3. And sometimes that's not something we can do anything about. It's their thought process. We can do something, but again, that's going to be up to them. But that's reason number 3. Okay, reason number 4, they have a different alternative. This might be somebody who's already using oils, and they are totally fine with using oils that they got at Sprouts or from another company, and they don't feel a reason to switch from that and use what you're suggesting, okay? So this is big because we want them to be using essential oils. Like when somebody says that they're already using essential oil, I say, fabulous, I'm so glad that you're using natural alternatives or an essential oil, and I'm happy for them. So our job on this one is not necessarily to persuade them to change, but to help them to know that we're happy that they're on the right path, and then maybe on their own, that might be something down the road that they might be able to look into. Again, our job isn't to change people's mind, it's just to help them see a different way, and they're going to change their own mind. Like, we're just going to help them. All right, so that's reason number 4. Reason number 5. No power to make the buying decision. Now this is interesting. I'm sure many of you have probably heard this before, where somebody says, well, let me ask my husband. This can be a little frustrating because to me, now I was one of those that, I'm always saying, well, let me talk to my husband. And mainly it's because he and I together work on finances, and we don't spend large amounts unless we talk to somebody first, talk to each other first. And so when you're talking to the person who doesn't actually do the finances in their home, they don't actually have the power to make that decision. So it doesn't mean it's a no, that I'm not going to do this, I'm not interested. It just means I actually need to talk to somebody, and we need to come together on that. And this one's a huge one. When they leave the class, it doesn't mean that it's a no, it just means you need to follow up with them, because it sounds like they may have been interested. This also might be a good one that people actually give as an excuse. They may be not interested in all, but they don't want to say no to you. They don't want to hurt your feelings, or they may just not feel comfortable in telling you I'm not interested. And so let's say, I need to talk to my husband. Again, this is just a follow-up. Something you need to do to just make sure and find out. Again, we're going to talk all about how to do this a little bit later, but just so you know the top 5 reasons. Okay, number 6, no money. And this may be people who legitimately do not have any money for this right now. Now, the one thing I want to say on this is they may not have the money, but those who find something that they want bad enough, they will find the money. For instance, if you need to get to work and you go and you wake up in the morning and you go to your car and it has a flat tire, you're going to find money to fix that tire, right? So it's up to us really to come up with reasons as to why they need to find the money for this. So sometimes not having money is an excellent reason, but it can also be just an excuse, okay? So that's reason number 6. And then reason number 7, they're really just not interested. There are some people, and I will tell you, I just came on a plane from Arizona, and it was so funny. A lady was sitting next to me, and she said, "So what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm traveling to Oregon for work." I said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I teach classes on essential oils." And she said, "Oh, my sister's into that. I hate those things. They are so smelly, and I am so not interested." Okay, then. So that was a little uncomfortable 2-hour plane ride, sitting next to somebody who had no interest in essential oils. Actually, what I did, I'll tell you, when I talked to her, I said, "Oh, I totally understand. That's exactly how I felt when my sister showed me. So I get it. No problem. We're fine." And then we were on common ground there. But truly, she may be interested. She just doesn't know enough information. But at that time, no interest is truly what they feel. So it's our job to just kind of help them. And that, again, might be more of a follow-up, because the first time people hear about essential oils is not necessarily going to be the time that they want to enroll or be interested in being a part of it. Okay, so what are we going to do about all these? Now that we know the reasons, how do we overcome those 7 reasons? It all comes down to using the 3 direct enrolling questions. Do you all know what those are? Okay, because that's what we're going to talk about. All right. So here we go. Here's the scenario. You just finished teaching your class. Okay, it was awesome. You talked about the oils. You passed them around. They're all very engaged. You've told them how to get a wholesale account. In other words, you said you can buy it retail. Wholesale is $35. Sorry, $35. You get 25% off for a year, or here's the kits. Okay, that's showing them the wholesale account. And then you have your drawing. Now is the time to say, okay, everybody, and I put the words right here for you. My job is to help you. So I'll be going around the room to help each of you and answer any questions you might have. Please don't leave until I talk to you. Those are the words you want to say so that they know, okay, she's going to help me make a decision on what I should do here. Generally at this time, they're thinking in their head, these sound cool. I might like them, I might not, but they're a little confused as to what to get, how to get it, what do I do? And their brain just might feel like they've just exploded. It's our job to help you know exactly what to do differently, okay? So let's move on. So you just told them, I'm going to come around, I'm going to answer any questions you might have. Please don't leave until I talk to you. So what do you do when you talk to them? That's where you read to make questions. So somebody needs to mute themselves. I've muted the entire line, but that means somebody unmuted themselves and we can hear you. So if you just go ahead and click that so that you are back to being muted, that would be great. So here's what I do. When I go up to each person, which by the way, it's not always one-on-one. So say there's 6 people at the class. It's really hard to actually talk to all 6 people. So if there's people there who came together, so for instance, a mother, something like that, I would actually go over them together and I would ask these questions, okay? So it doesn't always have to be one-on-one. It can be in a group. And this is what I do. I go up to them and I say, so what did you like most about the class? Now notice, I didn't ask them, so did you like the class? That's a yes or no question. And it could mean they could say something negative. I don't want to hear the negative. I want to hear what they liked about the class, and it's an open-ended question. So generally, when I ask that question, they're going to tell me something like, oh, I like it when you talked about your son's ear infection. Or I like it when you talked about, and they're going to tell you something about them, something that resonated with them that you talked about, okay? That is so important to understand and know and that they're telling you that, because that's number one, how you're going to create trust with them, right? You're getting to know them, they get to know you a little bit, and it's going to lead on to the next question, okay, which is, which kid interests you the most? Now, when you do these things, I want to make sure that you put them into your own words. So if saying, which kid interests you the most, if it sounds uncomfortable to you, then put it in your own words. Here's what I say. I say, if we could wave a magic wand and money was no option at all, and you looked at this little picture of the kids right here, which one? Okay. Now, let's see if I can fix that here. There we go. Let me see if I can remute everybody. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, they must have unmuted themselves. Okay, let's keep going. So I then will say to them, which kid interests you the most, but I say it in my own words, which are, if you had a magic wand and you could get whatever you wanted right now and money was not an option, what would you choose? That tells me a lot about where they are. That tells me, for instance, many of them would say, oh, I think I would want to get everything. Like, that means they're really interested, right? They would want to get everything. Or some of them might say, you know, I think I want to get the athlete's kit. That tells you what type of person they are. Okay, they're athletic, they're very much into exercise, or they might say something like, I'm looking at the cleanse and restore kit. Again, that tells you a lot about them and what their interest is. Or they may ask you a question and say, which one is good for sleep? Or which one is good for concentration? Or my child has such and such, which one is good for that? That's where you're going to find out information about them, okay, when you ask them which kid interests you the most. Okay, so let's move on to the third one. Once you find that out, then you say, would you like to set up a wholesale account tonight? Now, a lot of people cringe on this question. They cringe because they feel like they are doing something that's going to make them want to, you know, be the car salesman, right? Would you like to set up a wholesale account tonight? Basically, you're just finding out, can I help you right now to set up that account? Don't be afraid of asking that question. It's okay. So sometimes I don't say it directly like that. What I will do is say, after I found out about which kid interests them the most, I will then say something like, you know what? So say, for instance, that everything worked out correctly and you had the money, you had the finances, whatever it takes. Would you be wanting to get a wholesale account tonight? And can I help you with that? So put it into your own words. Make sure it's something that you feel comfortable saying, okay? I want you to memorize these 3 direct enrolling questions, because at the end of the class, if you haven't memorized them, there is no time for you to go get out a book and say, let me ask you this question, right? That's not going to sound like very personable. So make sure that you have them memorized. So as soon as we're done with this class right now, I want you to get these 3 direct enrolling questions. I hope you're writing them down right now and memorize them. I have them in my head. I can say that at any time. What did you like most about the class? Which kid interests you the most? Would you like to set up a wholesale account tonight? Let's memorize them. Okay, so let's go in detail a little bit about these. Okay, so direct enrolling question number 1. What did you like most about the class? And what this is going to help you address is the top 3 reasons why people don't enroll. So number 1, lack of trust. So we talked about that a little bit. When you get to know them better, you're going to be able to instill some trust within them. So when you say to them, what did you like most about the class? They're going to tell you, I liked whatever it might be, and that will help you understand them, get to know them better, get to know their life, what it is that they liked because they said that. Now, they may say, I liked about, when you talk about your son's ear infections, and then you ask more questions, say, what is it you liked about that? Well, I liked that you said such and such, okay? And then you can say, was there anything else that you liked? So dig in deeper and ask more questions, and that is going to build that trust within you. And then you can say, you know what? I'm so glad you said that because I have felt something, okay? So this is just going to start a conversation that gets you to feel like they can know you a little bit better, and more importantly, you know them. When people know you better, that's what's going to cross. Okay, sounds good. I need to sorry, everyone. This. Okay, I need 1 person. There we go. That worked. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so then no sense of urgency. So that's the one where people were just kind of sitting back saying, you know what, this is all nice and cool, but I'm not sure it's for me right now. when you ask this question, this is where you're going to help them see that this might be something you need right now. For instance, you might reiterate to them, you know what? I know that you said you liked such and such for your son, or you liked about my son's ear infections because your son has those. And you can say, there's a special going on this month that if you spend 160 PV, you get this, this, and this. Is that something that you would like to do? Or just reiterate to that. That creates a sense of urgency. Now, if there isn't a special going on right now, you can always come up with your own, okay? And it doesn't have to be I'm not quite sure why the sound keeps coming on. I apologize, everyone. Okay, can you guys mute yourself? If you're not muted, go ahead and mute yourself. Okay, so let's go on to fixing is more work than the problem. When you're asking this question, what did you like most about the class? Again, you're getting to know them. So you might find out that they have allergies, or they have something that they're currently working on right now. And they are more likely to be able to work with that problem when they get more information from you when you're talking with them one-on-one, okay? So let's just talk about the allergies. So say somebody has some allergy, problems with their allergies and they're taking some medication. So when you're talking with them, when you ask them what they like most about the class, they might say, I like when you talked about taking peppermint and lemon and lavender for allergies. But then they might say, you know, but I have the medication I'm taking right now. So what you could then say at that time is say, is it helping you? Is it giving everything that you want to? Does it have any side effects? And you can kind of help them along to see this is going to be natural. Give it a try. You may never know what's going to work. Anyways, it's just a great conversation to help them overcome any of those three reasons addressed right there, just by asking that one question. What did you like most about the class? Okay, so let's move on to question number 2. Oh, you know what? Actually, we're going to talk a little bit more about trust. So when you build trust with people, it's actually going to be the best way to ensure enrollments. People are drawn to those that they trust. So if we look at this little diagram right here, okay, trust is a little circle that happens. So it builds sincerity, make sure that you have reliability, commitment, integrity, competence, consistency. So when you ask that one question, you build trust with them, what you're doing is you're actually helping all 7 of those questions be able to, for them to want to work with you a little bit more simply because they trust you. Okay, so let's look at this. How can we help people build trust with us? Since this is the #1 most important reason why people don't enroll, we need to figure that out, right? Okay, so help them with what they want. Are we doing that? Are we helping them figure out what they want? So I always will write down, make a list. I even write down. So say, for instance, this is my prize drawing slip. This is my prize drawing slip. I will write on the back of the prize drawing slip, okay, so you have allergies, you have a hard time sleeping, or you might have this issue. And I will say, it might look like this kit might be the one that interests you the most. Again, I'm not trying to get them to buy something because I want them to get that. It has to be something that they want. That builds so much trust in them, especially when they see that you're writing it down. You're taking an interest in them and what they want. Huge way to build trust. Okay, the second one, speak positively about other companies or products. So if you came in and you said, oh, you're with Young Living, or you've heard Young Living, or they used another weight loss product, oh, that doesn't work so well, they lose trust with you really, really fast. I would always stay positive about anything that you're talking about. People lose trust in you when they hear you saying something negative about someone or another company or other products, because they don't know if later on you might say that same thing about them, okay? So keeping that trust is really, really big when you speak positively. Okay, let's look at the next one. Do not misrepresent the features or uses of the product. In other words, overselling. If you in your class are continually saying, I guarantee this will help with your whatever it might be, or just saying the words like you would hear somebody who's a car salesman. I keep saying that. I know there's a lot of good car salesmen out there, but they just have that, bad rap, right? So if we misrepresent the features or uses over and over and over again, they begin to feel this mistrust with us. Like, how can everything be that good? So we want to be real and honest and raw with them. For instance, when I tell people that I didn't used to like essential oils, and my sister and I tell the whole story of how I came to really liking them, I find a common ground with people, knowing that I wasn't always this essential oil lover. I used to be somebody who thought they were crazy. And so bringing that vulnerability in there and honesty really builds trust. Okay, the next one, don't make any promises. This also is a good one for not trusting you. If you say, I promise that if you get this will happen, or I promise this, it is so easy for things to not happen the way that we thought they would. And then if we had promised that to them, they just lose a lot of trust with us. So that's a hard one. I just never ever said, I promise. I just say, we'll do the best we can. Don't sell to them, help them. And this is a mentality. This is something that anytime you're teaching at a class, everybody in that room, I have no plans on selling them anything. My job there is simply to teach and to help. And then at the end of that class, they get to decide if this is something that they want to incorporate in their life or not. And if they don't, I'm so fine with that. I leave that room knowing that I helped them and that I did my job. And if nobody enrolled, not a problem. And I truly believe that. So if you in your mind are feeling like, oh, nobody bought anything tonight, this was a failure. No, you helped people and it was a success. They feel that from you. And they feel that trust because they can feel that from you. Okay, and the last one, speak sincerely and from your heart. So, so true. The more you can share from your heart what's inside of you and what's going on, they're more likely to trust you. So hopefully there's some really good ideas there on how to build trust with people. Okay, let's move on to the direct enrolling question number 2. Which kit interests you the most? Okay, so just ask them that first direct enrolling question, which was, what did you like best about the class tonight? And we're moving on to which kit interests you the most. So the reasons, or the 7 reasons that this one addresses, is they have a different alternative. So this is where you'll find out. If you ask them, okay, if you wave your magic wand and you have all the money in the world, which kit interests you the most? They will pick out one that fits them the best. So if they want one of everything, wow, that's awesome. You can then talk to them. Why is this a kit that interests you the most? And they'll tell you, well, it has the deep blue in it because I get a lot of back pain. I like how you talked about such and such, okay? So if they have a different alternative they're using right now, this might help them understand how, this could work better than what I'm using. Again, they have to come to that in their own head. That's not something you can convince them of. You're simply just going to give them information. The other one that helps is fixing is more work than the problem. Again, you're going to get to know them a little bit better and find out that, look, we have this alternative for your allergies, and find out that maybe they had some side effects that were a little uncomfortable with whatever they were taking. Again, you're just going to get to know them. And then the last one is they have no interest. If they tell you, I really don't want to get a kit, I don't think I'd get any kit, well then that answers your question right there, right? So this number 2 question really helps you with those 3 reasons why people do not enroll in either class. Okay, and the last one, the third direct enrolling question, would you like to set up a wholesale account? This also helps with the last 3 questions. If they say no, well then they will let you know if they're the one who has the power to make the decision. They could say something like, I need to get back with you, I need to talk to my husband. That means you need to follow up with them, right? Okay, what if they say I have no money? Well, that tells you right there, they're not going to set up a wholesale account tonight. And then the last one, they just truly have no interest. So when you ask these 3 direct enrolling questions, what it does is it helps with all of those 7 reasons and gives you a lot more clarity. Now, does that mean just because they answer that we are totally done? No, there's so much more to do, okay? So if you can get help with with questions number 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are so much easier to overcome, okay? Help them by having that trust within you. Help them by getting to know them, by talking to them. Sitting next to them afterwards is going to be the number 1 main reason or help that will help you overcome all of those 7 reasons. Okay, so if 4, 5, 6, and 7 aren't always going to happen at a later time, then that is why follow-up is so important. Okay, here's some really good statistics. Did you know that only 2% of people actually enroll on their first contact? So if somebody came to your class that night, and that is the first time they've ever heard of essential oils, 2% chance they'll actually enroll. So it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean you said something wrong. It doesn't mean it wasn't because they didn't have money or interest. It was just their first contact. And 2% actually need a little bit more contact. The next one, generally takes 6 to 8 touches before a person usually enrolls. 6 to 8 touches. So here's the deal. When my sister first introduced me to essential oils, that was one touch, because she said, Diane, do you want to come to a class? I was like, whatever, no. I then went to my chiropractor, and I found out that he was using deep blue oil for people who had back pain. So that was another contact. A third contact is I went to a class from a lady who was teaching about natural health and weight loss. And in it, she said, now I have a product called Slim and Sassy. So that was my third contact, okay? Fourth contact was my sister invited me to another class. Fifth contact was my son actually getting help for his ear discomfort with melaleuca oil. So I had several contacts before I actually enrolled. Sixth contact is when I went to the class, and that's when I actually enrolled. So you can see how this works so well right there. This is why we are always giving samples to people, why we continue to invite people to classes, even though they may have already come to one. You give them a different reason to come to one. So if somebody leaves your class and they didn't enroll that night, it doesn't mean you failed. It just means you need to follow up and keep inviting. Look at this. If you don't follow up, someone else will. So say they came to your class and it was their first contact and they're a little bit intrigued by it, okay? Then their friend talks to them about, you know what, I use this balance oil every time I go to the doctor and it really helps with my veins. That's their second contact. Third contact might be by somebody else inviting them to a class because you didn't follow up and re-invite them, okay? These 7 reasons are not something that just happens at the class. It happens and continues afterwards. Follow-up is so, so very important. So these 7 reasons can all be helped with your 3 direct enrolling questions that you're going to ask and by following up. So here we go. I want you all to get out a piece of paper and I want you to ask yourself, number 1, why do I teach classes? And I want you to be really real with yourself. Because if your answer is, I need to pay my mortgage, I need to get out of debt, I need to, which are all really good reasons and part of the reasons why I originally started. But if you truly are not there to help them with natural sources for their health, they will know that. So that when you sit down next to them and you talk to them and you're thinking in the back of your head, I really need them to buy a natural solutions kit because I need to make this amount of money to help pay for such and such. That will come out and they will feel that. So when you write on this piece of paper, it's okay to write down, I need to pay for whatever it might be, but you also need to make sure that the number 1 reason that you're teaching that class is because you generally want to help them, okay? So let's look at number 2. What do I hope the result will be from teaching this class? Okay, and the result is that you want them to have essential oils in their home. You want them to enroll. That's a great thing. And so you want to help them by number 1, helping them learn about essential oils, and number 2, that they get these oils in their home. So when you have that mentality in your head, that's what they're going to feel, and that's what will come across, and that's what's going to build trust, which is the number 1 reason people do not enroll. So the answers from above 2 questions is the energy that will be felt as you teach your class and as you're asking the 3 direct enrolling questions. So make sure you keep that at the forefront. Why am I here? What is my purpose, and what is the result that I want from this, so that they can feel that energy from you. Okay, so hopefully you've learned a lot about how to close out the class. You are going to memorize those 3 direct enrolling questions, and you're going to help with the follow-up and having people trust you. I think those are all going to be the key elements to help you close out the class. So next week, we're going to talk about, around on my friends and family, now what, okay? This is really important. I have a lot of people who get stuck right here because they've already invited people to their classes and they have nobody else to invite. So hopefully this is something you can join with us next week, 10 o'clock. I'm going to open up the chat line, and if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to go to the chat line. Let's see if I can get over there to it and ask me some questions about some things you might want to know. We may have answered all your questions. You don't have any, and we could just end the class right here. But I'm right here on the chat line. If anybody has a question that they have for me.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. This is Judy Stevens.
Hi, Judy.
So, I had a class this week, and it was mostly family. There were 12 members, and 3 of them wanted to go into the same membership, and another 3 wanted to go under the same membership because it was mother and daughter kind of things. Do we just encourage that, discourage that?
So this is what I answer. I've had that happen a lot of times. They're like, oh, Mom, you get the account and I'll do such and such. So this is what I say to them. It really makes them think. I will say, okay, so you guys need to decide who's going to get the points. Because I'll say every time you place an order, and I'm going to assume that they're going to be a loyalty rewards member because we talk about that, there's going to be points that you earn. So if you put in your mom's name, your mom's going to earn all those points. Are you guys going to be okay with that? You need to look at that and decide who's going to get a shipping and handling. You're going to divide all of that. Say, I think, and I will honestly tell them, I've had it happen in the past, and then they each eventually got their own account. So I will let you decide what works best for you. One person will get all of those points, and then you maybe need to divide them, and you need to go to her house and pick up the items, or you can each get your own account, and I'll let you decide what's best for you. And I leave it at that. I just let them know that there's some pros and cons for that. Good question. And I still have people who do still enroll together as mother and daughter, and I'm fine with that, as long as they work out. So we have a question on the chat line that says, Diane, when you follow up with people, do you ask the same questions you would at a class? And that's a really good question. So I don't. When I'm following up with people, that means I'm going to re-invite them to the class. Or if they came to the class and they didn't enroll, I will just call them up and say, you know, that's where this little paper comes in really handy. Remember I told you I take notes? I will say, hey, Melissa, I talked to you about at your class, and we were talking about your son's allergies, and I'm just following up with you. Did you ever get to talk to your husband and decide if this would work for you? So I go over whatever it is I wrote on the piece of paper, and then I will re-invite them to a class. Or I may have a different type of class, a bingo event that they'll invite them to, and that's what you're following up as well. I hope that answers that question there. Okay, any other questions anybody has? Okay, sounds like we are done. Thank you all for being on the call. I appreciate that. And we will talk to you next week. See you.